At 9:17 on the morning of January 22, 1943, Second Lieutenant Thomas Mitchell crouched in the ruins of a Japanese bunker west of Cape Esperance, watching a banyan tree 240 yards away through a scope his fellow officers had laughed at for 6 weeks. 27 years old, Ohio State champion, 0 confirmed kills. The Japanese had 11 snipers operating in the Cape Esperance Groves, and in the past 72 hours they had killed 14 men from the 147th Infantry Regiment. Mitchell's commanding officer had called his rifle a toy. The other platoon leaders called it his mail-order sweetheart, when he had unpacked the Winchester Model 70 with its Lyman Alaskan scope, and Griffin and Howe mount at Camp Shelby in Mississippi. The armourer wanted to know if this was meant for deer or Germans. Mitchell explained it was for the Japanese. They shipped out before the rifle arrived. Mitchell spent the voyage to Bougainville watching other men clean their Garands while his own weapon sat in a warehouse in Ohio. He requested it be forwarded through military mail. 6 weeks later, in late December of 1942, a supply sergeant handed him a wooden crate marked "Fragile." Inside was the rifle he had saved 2 years of National Guard pay to buy. The rifle weighed 9 pounds. The scope added another 12 ounces. The Garand issued to every other man in his battalion weighed 9.5 pounds with no magnification. Mitchell's rifle was bolt action, 5 rounds. The Garand was semi-automatic, 8 rounds. Captain Reynolds ordered him to leave the sporting rifle in his tent and carry a real weapon. Mitchell carried it anyway. The 147th Infantry had relieved the Marines on Bougainville in late December of 1942. The Marines had been fighting since August. They had taken Piva Airfield. They had held it, but they had not taken Hill 700, and they had not cleared the Japanese from the coastal groves west of the Numa River. Hill 700 stood 1,514 feet tall. The Japanese called it the Gesu, 500 men, 47 bunkers. Mitchell's battalion attacked on December 17th. They fought for 16 days. They lost 34 men killed and 279 wounded before they finally took the western slope on January 2nd. By then, Mitchell had fired his Winchester exactly 0 times in combat. The jungle around Cape Esperance was different. No bunkers, no fixed positions, just Japanese soldiers who had retreated west from Piva Airfield and dug into the massive trees. Some of those soldiers were snipers. They had scoped Arisaka-type 98s. They knew the jungle. They knew how to wait. On January 19th, a sniper killed Corporal Henderson while he was filling canteens at a creek. On January 20th, another sniper killed 2 men from K Company during a patrol. On January 21st, 3 more men died. One of them was shot through the neck from a tree the patrol had walked past twice. The battalion commander summoned Mitchell that night. The Japanese snipers were killing his men faster than malaria. He needed someone who could shoot. He wanted to know if that mail-order rifle could actually hit anything. Mitchell explained his credentials. Ohio State Championship at 1,000 yards in 1939. 23 years old at the time, youngest winner in the state's history, 6-inch groups at 600 yards with iron sights, with the Lyman Alaskan, 5 rounds inside 4 inches at 300 yards. The commander gave him until morning to prove it. If you want to see how Mitchell's civilian rifle performed against Japanese snipers, trained for jungle warfare, please hit that like button. It helps us share more forgotten stories like this, and please subscribe if you haven't already. Back to Mitchell. Mitchell spent the night checking his rifle. The Winchester had been packed in Cosmoline for the ocean voyage. He cleaned it again. He checked the scope mounts. He loaded 5 rounds of .30-06 hunting ammunition he had packed in Mississippi. Military ball ammo. The same cartridge the Garand fired. At dawn on January 22nd, Mitchell moved into position in the ruins of a Japanese bunker his battalion had captured 3 days earlier. The bunker overlooked the coconut groves west of Cape Esperance. Intelligence said the Japanese snipers operated from the large trees in that area, banyan trees. Some of them reached 90 feet tall with trunks 8 feet thick. A sniper could climb one of those trees before dawn and sit there all day without being seen. Mitchell had brought no spotter, no radio man, just his rifle and a canteen and 60 rounds of ammunition in stripper clips. He settled into the bunker and began to watch the trees through his scope. The Lyman Alaskan had 2.5 power magnification. Not much, but enough to see movement in the branches that the naked eye would miss. The jungle was never silent. Birds, insects, the distant sound of artillery. Mitchell had learned to filter out the noise and focus on movement. He glassed the trees slowly, left to right, top to bottom. At 9:17, he saw it. A branch moved. No wind, just a small shift. 87 feet up in a banyan tree, 240 yards away. Mitchell watched. The branch moved again. Then he saw the shape. A man, dark clothing, positioned in a fork where 3 branches met. The Japanese sniper was facing east, watching the trail where Mitchell's battalion had been moving supplies. Mitchell adjusted his scope, 2 clicks right for wind. He controlled his breathing. The Winchester's trigger was glass smooth, 3.5 pounds. He had spent hours adjusting it at Camp Perry before the war. Now he would find out if a civilian target rifle could kill a man trained to kill him first. Mitchell squeezed the trigger. The Winchester kicked into his shoulder. The sound cracked through the jungle, 240 yards away. The Japanese sniper jerked and fell. He dropped through the branches. His body tumbled 90 feet and hit the ground near the base of the banyan tree. Mitchell worked the bolt. The empty cartridge ejected. He chambered another round. He kept his scope on the tree, waited for movement. Nothing. The sniper's partner would be close. Japanese snipers worked in pairs. 1 shooter, 1 spotter. If Mitchell had just killed the shooter, the spotter was somewhere in that tree or in the trees nearby. Mitchell scanned the surrounding banyans. The scope's 2.5 power magnification forced him to search slowly. Each tree could hide multiple men. The jungle canopy created shadows that made shapes impossible to distinguish without careful observation. At 9:43, he found the second sniper. Different tree, 60 yards north of the first. This one was lower, maybe 50 feet up. The Japanese soldier was moving down the trunk, retreating. He had heard the shot and knew his position was compromised. Mitchell aimed, led the movement, fired. The second sniper fell backwards off the tree. His rifle clattered through the branches ahead of him. Both hit the jungle floor within seconds of each other. 2 shots, 2 kills. Mitchell reloaded his Winchester from a stripper clip. His hands were steady, his breathing was controlled. This was no different than shooting at Camp Perry, except the targets shot back. At 11:21, a Japanese bullet struck the sandbag 6 inches from Mitchell's head. The impact sprayed dirt into his face. He rolled left and pressed himself against the bunker wall. The shot had come from the southwest, different direction than the first 2 snipers. Mitchell waited 3 minutes before moving. He inched back to his firing position and glassed the trees to the southwest. The shooter would have moved after taking the shot. That was basic sniper doctrine, shoot and relocate. But in a jungle, this dense, relocation options were limited. Mitchell found him at 11:38, third tree from the left in a cluster of 5 banyans, 73 feet up. The Japanese sniper had repositioned to a different branch, but remained in the same tree. A mistake. Mitchell put the crosshairs on the dark shape and fired. The third sniper fell without making a sound. By noon, Mitchell had killed 5 Japanese snipers. Word spread through the battalion. Men who had mocked his mail-order rifle now asked if they could watch him work. Mitchell refused. Spectators drew attention. Attention drew fire. The Japanese snipers adapted after the 5th kill. They stopped moving during daylight. Mitchell spent the afternoon glassing trees and seeing nothing. At 1600 hours, he returned to battalion headquarters. Captain Reynolds was waiting. The mockery was gone from his voice. He wanted Mitchell back in position at dawn. January 23rd began with rain, heavy tropical rain that turned the jungle floor into mud and made the trees invisible beyond 100 yards. Mitchell sat in the bunker and waited for the weather to clear. The rain stopped at 8:15. By 8:45, enough visibility had returned for work. Mitchell spotted the first sniper of the day at 9:12. The Japanese soldier had climbed into position during the rain. Smart. The sound of rain-masked movement. This sniper had chosen a tree 290 yards out, longer range than yesterday. Also smart. They were learning his capabilities. Mitchell compensated for distance and fired. The sniper fell. The sixth kill brought a response Mitchell had not anticipated. At 9:57, Japanese mortars began hitting the area around his bunker. They had triangulated his position based on muzzle flash or sound. The first rounds landed 40 yards short. The second salvo landed 20 yards short. The third salvo would hit the bunker. Mitchell grabbed his rifle and ran. He sprinted north along the tree line and dove into a shell crater. As the third salvo hit, the bunker he had occupied moments before disappeared in explosions and flying debris. He relocated to a different position, a fallen tree 120 yards north of the destroyed bunker. The tree provided cover and a clear view of the groves. Mitchell settled in and resumed his watch. The Japanese sent more snipers that afternoon. They knew Mitchell was hunting them. They were now hunting him back. The dynamic had changed. This was no longer target shooting. This was a duel. At 14:23, Mitchell killed his 7th sniper. At 15:41, he killed his 8th. This one had climbed high, 94 feet up a banyan tree. Good concealment, but the height created a silhouette against the sky when the sun angle changed. At 1700 hours, Captain Reynolds sent a runner to bring Mitchell back. Mitchell had been in position for 9 hours. Reynolds wanted numbers. Mitchell reported 8 confirmed kills over 2 days. 12 rounds fired, 8 kills, 4 misses. Reynolds assigned Mitchell to continue sniper operations starting at dawn on January 24th. That night, Mitchell cleaned his Winchester and considered the mathematics. 11 Japanese snipers operating in the Cape Esperance Groves. 8 now dead, 3 remaining. Those 3 would be the best, the ones who had survived the longest. And now they knew exactly what Mitchell looked like and exactly what rifle he carried. Mitchell loaded his Winchester with 5 fresh rounds and tried to sleep. At 0300, he gave up and sat in his tent with the rifle across his lap. The rain started again at 04:15. By 05:30, it was heavy enough that dawn operations would be delayed. Mitchell used the time to move to a new position, not the bunker, not the fallen tree, somewhere the Japanese would not expect. He chose a spot 70 yards south of his previous position, a cluster of large rocks the Marines had used as a machine gun nest back in December. The position offered good cover and overlapping fields of fire into the groves. He settled in and waited for the rain to stop. At 7:43, the rain slowed to a drizzle. Visibility improved. Mitchell began glassing trees. At 8:17, on January 24th, he found sniper number 9. The Japanese soldier was positioned in a palm tree 190 yards out, low, only 40 feet up. Unusual. Most snipers climbed high for better sight lines. This one had chosen concealment over elevation. The palm fronds created a natural hide that would be invisible from ground level. But Mitchell was not at ground level. He was elevated on the rocks. The angle gave him a view down into the fronds. He could see the dark shape of the sniper's shoulders and head. Mitchell aimed, controlled his breathing, began to squeeze the trigger. Then he stopped. Something was wrong. The position was too obvious, too easy. Mitchell had been hunting snipers for 3 days. He had killed 8 men. The remaining 3 would not make elementary mistakes. They would not position themselves where an elevated shooter could spot them, unless it was bait. Mitchell lowered his rifle and scanned the surrounding trees. If the sniper in the palm was bait, the real shooter would be positioned to cover him, watching for anyone who took the shot, waiting for muzzle flash, ready to return fire. Mitchell glassed the trees methodically, left to right, top to bottom. He checked every tree within 300 yards of the palm. It took 11 minutes. At 8:28, he found the real threat. A banyan tree 80 yards northwest of the palm, 91 feet up. The Japanese sniper was positioned in a perfect hide. Branches and vines concealed him from 3 sides. He had a clear line of sight to Mitchell's previous position at the fallen tree. He was waiting for Mitchell to appear there or to take a shot at the bait in the palm tree. Mitchell had 2 problems. First, the real sniper was watching the wrong location. If Mitchell fired at him, the sound would reveal Mitchell's actual position. The sniper would relocate before Mitchell could work the bolt and chamber another round. Second, if Mitchell did nothing, the sniper would eventually realize Mitchell was not at the fallen tree and begin searching for him. Mitchell decided to use the bait against them. He aimed at the decoy sniper in the palm tree, adjusted for wind, fired. The decoy sniper jerked and fell from the palm. Mitchell immediately swung his rifle toward the banyan tree 91 feet up. The real sniper would react to the shot. He would turn toward the sound. That turn would create movement. Mitchell saw it. A slight shift. The sniper was repositioning to face Mitchell's location. Mitchell put the crosshairs on the dark shape and fired before the sniper could fully turn. The real sniper fell. His rifle tumbled after him. 2 shots, 2 kills. But Mitchell had revealed his position to anyone else watching. He grabbed his rifle and ammunition and ran. He moved east along the rock line and dropped into a drainage ditch 40 yards away. He pressed himself into the mud and waited. At 8:34, Japanese machine gun fire raked the rocks where he had been positioned 6 seconds earlier. The bullets kicked up dust and stone fragments. The fire lasted 17 seconds. When it stopped, Mitchell counted to 60 before moving. He relocated again, this time to a position 100 yards east, a shell crater partially filled with rainwater. Mitchell settled into the crater with water up to his chest. He rested the Winchester on the crater rim and resumed glassing trees. 10 confirmed kills, 1 remaining. The 11th sniper would be the best, the smartest, the most experienced. He had watched 10 of his comrades die over 3 days. He knew Mitchell's tactics, he knew Mitchell's rifle, he knew Mitchell's approximate location, and somewhere in those trees he was watching, waiting, planning. Mitchell scanned the jungle through his scope. The Lyman Alaskan magnification made distant shapes visible, but not identifiable. Every dark spot could be a branch or a man. Mitchell had to study each one carefully. At 9:47, he realized his mistake. The 11th sniper was not in the trees. He was on the ground, and he was moving toward Mitchell's position. Mitchell saw the movement at the edge of his peripheral vision, 60 yards south, low to the ground, a shape moving through the undergrowth parallel to the tree line. The Japanese sniper was using the jungle floor vegetation for cover, ferns, vines, fallen branches. He was crawling toward Mitchell's last known position at the rocks. Mitchell remained motionless in the water-filled crater. The Winchester was already shouldered. His breathing was controlled, but the angle was wrong. The crater rim blocked his view of the approaching sniper. Mitchell would have to rise up to get a clear shot. Rising up would expose him. The Japanese sniper stopped moving at 9:52. He had reached a position 40 yards from the rocks. Mitchell watched through his scope. The sniper was studying the rocks, searching for movement, for any sign of his target. Mitchell waited. Patience was the primary skill of sniper work. The ability to remain still, to let time pass, to wait for the right moment, rather than force a bad shot. At 9:58, the Japanese sniper began moving again. He crawled forward, 35 yards from the rocks, 30 yards, 25 yards. He was approaching from the south side, the side Mitchell had used when he evacuated under machine gun fire. Mitchell understood the tactic. The Japanese sniper had watched the machine gun attack. He knew Mitchell had moved east from the rocks. He was now working his way along the most likely escape route, hunting Mitchell the way Mitchell had been hunting him. At 10:03, the Japanese sniper reached the rocks. He moved into the machine gun nest and took up a position facing east toward the drainage ditch, toward the area where Mitchell should have relocated. The sniper was now 38 yards from Mitchell's actual position in the water-filled crater, but he was facing the wrong direction. His back was exposed. Mitchell had a clear shot. Center mass, 38 yards. An easy shot, even without a scope. But Mitchell hesitated. This sniper had survived 10 days of American operations in the Cape Esperance Groves. He had outlived 10 other snipers who had been killed because they made mistakes. This man would not make mistakes. The position in the rocks was too exposed, too vulnerable. No experienced sniper would remain there for more than a few seconds. This had to be another decoy, another bait position. Mitchell kept his scope on the sniper in the rocks, but expanded his awareness to the surrounding area. If this was bait, the real threat would be positioned to cover it. At 10:06, Mitchell found it. A second Japanese soldier 70 yards northwest of the rocks behind a fallen tree trunk. This soldier was not moving, just watching, waiting. His rifle was aimed toward the drainage ditch where Mitchell should have been hiding. 2 men, not 1. Mitchell made his decision. He could not shoot both men before they reacted. The bolt-action Winchester required him to work the action between shots. That gave them time to locate him and return fire. Mitchell slowly lowered himself deeper into the water. He submerged until only his eyes and the top of his head remained above the surface. He kept the Winchester pointed skyward to keep water out of the barrel. Then he waited. At 10:13, the Japanese soldier in the rocks stood up. He had spent 10 minutes watching the drainage ditch and seen nothing. He believed Mitchell had moved farther east. He turned and signaled to his partner behind the fallen tree. Both men began moving east, parallel to each other, 70 yards apart. They were executing a sweep, planning to flush Mitchell out or find his position. Mitchell remained in the water, motionless. The 2 Japanese soldiers moved past his crater. They were now between Mitchell and the tree line. Their backs were exposed. Mitchell rose from the water. Slowly, silently, he brought the Winchester to his shoulder. Water dripped from the barrel, from his uniform, from his face. He aimed at the closer soldier, now 42 yards away. Mitchell fired. The soldier dropped. Mitchell worked the bolt, chambered another round, swung the rifle toward the second soldier. The man was turning, raising his rifle. Mitchell fired first. The second soldier fell. 11 shots fired over 3 days. 11 Japanese snipers dead. But as Mitchell climbed out of the crater, he heard voices. Japanese voices coming from the tree line, multiple men moving toward the fallen soldiers. Mitchell dropped back into the crater. He submerged until only his eyes remained above the surface. The Japanese voices grew louder. At least 6 men, maybe more. Infantry, a patrol sent to collect the bodies. At 10:28, the voices began moving toward Mitchell's crater. They had found his tracks, boot prints in the mud. Mitchell had 5 rounds in the Winchester, 6 Japanese soldiers at minimum. Poor odds. The voices grew closer. 30 yards, 25 yards, 20 yards. At 10:31, a Japanese soldier appeared at the crater rim. He was looking down directly at Mitchell. Their eyes met. Mitchell fired from the water. The soldier fell backward. Mitchell worked the bolt while still submerged, rose up. 2 more soldiers were at the crater rim. Mitchell fired, worked the bolt, fired again. Both soldiers dropped. 3 rounds left. More soldiers moving toward him. Mitchell climbed out and ran 20 yards, dropped behind a fallen tree. Japanese rifle fire cracked through the jungle. Bullets struck the ground around him. Mitchell glassed the area through his scope. Saw movement. 2 soldiers advancing, 50 yards out. Mitchell aimed at the lead soldier. Fired. The soldier dropped. 2 rounds left. Mitchell heard more voices behind him. The Japanese were flanking. He could not win this fight. Mitchell grabbed his rifle and ran north, sprinting through the jungle. Japanese rifle fire followed him. Mitchell ran for 90 seconds before diving into another shell crater. The Japanese voices were distant now. They had not pursued. Mitchell checked his rifle, mud on the stock, water dripping from the barrel. 2 rounds left. At 10:47, Mitchell began moving toward American lines. At 11:13, he reached the American perimeter. A Marine sentry challenged him. Mitchell identified himself and walked to battalion headquarters. Captain Reynolds wanted a full debrief. Mitchell provided it. 11 Japanese snipers killed over 4 days. 12 rounds fired, 11 hits. Then a firefight with infantry. 3 more kills. 5 total rounds. Reynolds told Mitchell to clean his rifle and rest. At 1400 hours, Colonel Patterson, the regimental commander, wanted to see Mitchell. Patterson had one question. Could Mitchell train other men to do what he had done? Mitchell said he could try, but it would require rifles with optics and men who could already shoot. Patterson said division had 14 Springfield rifles with unearthly scopes and 40 expert marksmen. Patterson wanted Mitchell to create a sniper section. Mitchell accepted on one condition. He wanted to keep his Winchester. Patterson approved. Training began on January 27th. Mitchell had 40 men assembled at a makeshift range. By January 30th, 32 of the 40 men could consistently hit man-sized targets at 300 yards. Mitchell divided them into 16 two-man teams. On February 1st, Mitchell took 4 teams into the field to clear Japanese positions. Mitchell's spotter, Corporal Stevens, confirmed targets through binoculars. Over 6 hours, Mitchell's team engaged 8 Japanese soldiers. 7 shots, 6 kills, 1 miss due to wind. The other 3 teams reported similar results. 23 Japanese soldiers killed that day. 0 American casualties. By February 9th, the section had killed 74 Japanese soldiers. On February 7th, a Japanese rifleman shot Mitchell in the left shoulder. The wound was serious, but not fatal. Mitchell was evacuated to a field hospital. During his recovery, the Japanese completed their evacuation of Bougainville. The campaign was over. Mitchell's sniper section had operated for 12 days. 74 confirmed kills, 0 friendly casualties. But Mitchell's war was not finished. Orders came from Pacific Command for a new mission in Burma. Mitchell volunteered. By March, Mitchell was on a transport ship heading west. His Winchester Model 70 was packed in the cargo hold. He joined the 5307 composite unit known as Galahad Force for operations behind Japanese lines in Burma. The march to Myitkyina airfield covered over 700 miles. Mitchell used his Winchester only 7 times in 3 months. Most combat was close-range ambushes. The unit entered Burma with 3,000 men and was down to fewer than 2,000 when they captured Myitkyina airfield on May 17th. Mitchell survived Burma and returned to the United States in July 1944. The Army promoted him to captain and assigned him to Fort Benning, Georgia. He never fired his Winchester in combat again. Mitchell was discharged in January 1947. Lieutenant Colonel, 2 Bronze Stars, 1 Purple Heart, Combat, Infantry Badge. He returned to Ohio and enrolled at Yale University, graduating with highest honors in 1950. In 1948, Mitchell wrote down what had happened on Bougainville and Burma. The manuscript grew to over 400 pages. A friend at the National Rifle Association convinced him to publish. The book, titled Precision Fire, became a classic among firearms enthusiasts and military historians. Thomas Mitchell died on March 15, 2010. He was 94 years old. The Winchester Model 70 that had killed Japanese snipers on Bougainville was donated to the National Firearms Museum in Fairfax, Virginia. It sits in a display case. Most visitors walk past without stopping. It looks like any other vintage hunting rifle, but it is not. It is the rifle that proved a state champion marksman with a mail-order scope could outshoot professionally trained military snipers. The rifle that cleared the Cape Esperance Groves in 4 days when an entire battalion could not do it in 2 weeks. The rifle that changed how the American military thought about individual marksmanship in modern warfare. If this story moved you, hit that like button. Every like tells YouTube to show this story to more people. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications. We're rescuing forgotten stories every single day. Drop a comment and tell us where you're watching from. Thank you for watching, and thank you for making sure Thomas Mitchell doesn't disappear into silence. These men deserve to be remembered, and you're helping make that happen.